following episode most likely contains graphic language, details of violence, and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 44 of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother. And today, for everybody who can't see us, we actually have our first guest. So this is Marc, everybody, and Marc runs the podcast Vancouver True Crime, right? All right. So
we are so excited to have you here, Marc. And I started out watching your stuff, listening to your stuff a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like right when we first started is when I kind of got into it. And you have all the beats on the street for sure.
Yeah.
And the quickest news on everything and really informative stuff. So we're excited to have you here and pick your brain a little bit.
Thank you. A pleasure being here. I'm happy to be your guest, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but there's more positive of doing it than not. There's on the downside, you get trolls,
of course, yeah,
crappy comments and stuff like that. And I do find sometimes like when I'm posting on Instagram, like, oh, this is going to get a flood of comments. Okay, I think I'm going to pass on this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a comment the other day. Mom was going through the YouTube comments, and I'm like, be careful, because someone was on one of our most brutal episodes. Like, obviously, true crime is something that, it's not for the faint-hearted. We like it because we like to know how people's brains work and all this stuff, and bring justice to the case and kind of bring awareness. But somebody, commented, like, I just didn't like the profanity. And it's like, okay, well, we talked about the most horrific thing happening. But we do have...
because we do swear quite a bit.
We do.
We're just kind of off the cuff. And
when something like that happens, it really gets you going.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can't make everyone happy. And then I try to use also my platform for advocacy as well. So I give an example about not making everyone happy, but having the right outcome. A young girl sent me some pictures, really disturbing stuff, a very abusive guy. He's drinking. There's some videos of him peeing on her floor and then hitting her. And I posted it, and she wanted me to post it, but she wasn't really giving me the whole context of it. And I felt it was important, so what I did is I posted a lot of resources for domestic violence, what to do, things like that. Well, it turned out I got a lot of positive comments on it, but one woman, she just ran off and goes, "Do better! You're just posting this for likes and this and that and that kind of thing." But anyways, I ended up taking it down. But after I took it down, someone wrote me and says, because of that video, that girl decided to press charges against that guy, and it was really a brutal video, and I'm glad he did. So that was the outcome I wanted, and
we talk about that a lot, too, now that everything's being filmed in the world. You never know where you are. You're probably being watched for some, so probably try to do better. I mean, at least people that are pieces of shit, they kind of think that, like, am I being filmed right now?
And I think that when people are lost in their terrible behavior and their criminal behavior, they don't actually sometimes realize they're being filmed, and what a valuable resource that we can stop some things and get people some help. Yeah. Now that it's becoming more the norm for people to seek help, for people to get justice, sometimes not, but it's so great that we do have all of this available to us to be able to
and even
advocate.
Your podcast, I mean, I have, or your Instagram. My girlfriend, I have one girlfriend, she's not a true crime fan. She doesn't like true crime, but she follows you because wants to be in the know, right? Sure. You're very quick with your stuff. Something happens and I read it on the news and I look and you have already posted it, and it's good to just bring awareness because we like to really push for people to be safe and to be keep your head on a swivel, is what the people on my favorite podcast say, right? So kind of just always make sure you're checking your surroundings, which obviously thank you for always bringing us that information.
Well, this is the kind of the goal of it. One is to entertain. Sometimes I even post comical stuff, funny stuff, awareness, some advocacy, and ultimately, I'm a storyteller, tell stories about things that I feel that deserve more attention or more awareness, right? So I try to balance all of that, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't make people happy, and you keep doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's always good to make some people unhappy. I find that you find out more when you do so.
Yeah.
So how did you get interested in what you're doing?
It was kind of by accident, actually, believe it or not. So I wanted to do a podcast for a long time, over 10 years. And I was really busy in my job. I had worked in the corporate world. I listened to a lot of stuff because I had long commutes sometimes. I'd be at the office for a long time. I'd listen to a lot of podcasts. And I liked good stories. I liked even conspiracy stuff, even if it wasn't necessarily true. But sometimes they're interesting because they give you a different perception of how things are. And sometimes there are packaged like 80% truth or 10%, you know.
We're really seeing that right now.
With some creativity added to it. So I didn't really want to put out stuff that I felt that was untrue or can be debunked later. And I have always liked crime stories. And I originally started the page like really humble, like as I was saying, on an iPhone 7. I made my first podcast on a voice memo. And it was just to get over it, to do it. I knew it wasn't going to be awesome. I knew, you know, it wasn't going to be a big thing overnight. And it really was just being consistent, doing it every day, and trying to feel like what I felt there was a lack of in the community as far as awareness, predators, people being released of, you know, really dangerous charges in the court. And, you know, the mainstream media in the past did a good job of that, and I feel now they're more interested in the bigger stories and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stories that fall through the cracks, and I felt like I fit a void for that.
Definitely. You definitely did. And we know all about the rough beginning because, I mean, all our loyal listeners know that the first 5 episodes of our podcast sound like they were filmed in a closet because they were filmed in a closet. So
the first 10 were probably pretty brutal.
Yeah, we have people, you know, they're like, oh, I want to listen to your podcast. Yeah. And then I have someone come back and be like, I had to stop because I was listening to my headphones and it like was hurting my ears or sounded like shit or whatever. But no, honestly, you have one of the pages that I probably check the most just to make sure that I'm in with it, because there's things like we have covered a couple cases. Jatin Patel, I know I saw you post Jatin Patel. They were, what episode was that? Do you remember? I know that was a lot of people.
Jatin Patel was probably about our midway point.
Yeah.
So that was the case of
Tracy Tom, the murder of Tracy Tom.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know that they are free and in the community, Jatin Patel, and actually
Jatin Patel is actually trans at this point.
A trans woman.
Yeah, that's a strange case.
It is very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that case because even during the time when it happened, I actually remember when it happened. I was living downtown. It was a really shocking case.
Yeah.
And the thing that I don't understand, and I'm maybe I have to do some research on this, I thought he was put away as a dangerous offender, and usually that means indefinite lockup. And
welcome
now he's
to
out.
Canada.
And I think that they only did 5 or 7 years or something
like that, and
and
they
was
were
released.
Well, and then there was all that stuff with the young girls, and then
going into his So he was in a halfway house after.
Yeah.
And then he had young teenagers going in through the window.
Yeah.
I remember that just the case off my head, just for the listeners who might not know about it. He was a crystal meth addict, and he would target underage girls, 15, 16-year-olds. He groped some woman in a safe way, right? And then, but the most shocking was he picked up a woman that was transgender, took her back to a hotel in North Vancouver, high on crystal meth, and then murdered her. And then left her body like in a shopping cart.
In a shopping cart, rolled up in the mattress cover with the name of the hotel on it.
Wow.
And he also had brought another prostitute back after, and she had helped him to hide the body and stuff like that. So that case was mind blowing, and the fact that they now.
Are transgender.
His whole defense was based on the defense of
I didn't know
that Tracy was trans.
Yeah.
But now, ironically, Jatin Patel, who goes under a different name, is now trans. Yeah. So clearly, I mean, I'm not excusing anything he did because there's no excuse for it, but clearly that's why it triggered him so badly, and that's sometimes what happens the most is you're triggered by the things that hit the closest to home.
Well, and you think too, was there more premeditation than originally, maybe he did or she did, or they did know that Tracy was transgender, and maybe, it was something that really struck a chord and
Yeah, that one unfolded very strangely.
It did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. With cases of that seriousness, though, I believe the system, the authorities, whoever you want to call them, deserve to give the public a better explanation of why they're being released, especially like not doing a lot of time and for the level of potential danger he poses to the community.
Yeah. Well, murder, and then you see too, I know on your page also, it's predators, sexual predators that get out early. And
Yes.
I've seen it on your page where I'm like, okay, there's a picture of this guy and what he looks like with 5 different
Oh, yeah,
disguises, or
yes.
his beard dyed. There was that guy from, I think he's living in Abbotsford now. I'm
Yes.
not sure his name, but I see you know exactly what I'm talking about, because really it happens all the time where if you were to see that on the news, at least, I mean, I'm not sure how many people watch the news these days, but even the fact that the news does not have something that's current, that's, like a podcast
Yes.
or like a Instagram or a TikTok or something where they can have information coming at you where you don't have to wait until 6 o'clock. And like I said, I don't even have cable. I don't know
Right.
who pays to have cable these days.
No, of
I
course
don't.
not.
I don't
But,
either.
Yeah.
So who's watching the news? So yeah, things like that. And we do talk about a lot of people that get out way before they are
Yeah, too
supposed
many.
to.
It's kind of scary, actually. It really is.
Well, we always
Or
joke.
the people that got broken out, he's like one, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he'd be like the Pablo Escobar kind of really high profile gangster, and he got broken out of a maximum security with construction equipment.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
how does
even
that
even
happen?
the bird flying the meth into
Oh,
the back
yes,
in the backpack.
back pigeons. I know.
Yes.
That's something, as soon as I'm not even kidding, I wake up and I'm like, am I in the Black Mirror or the Twilight Zone? Sometimes
Yeah.
things don't make sense. Backpack.
That
on
floating
pigeons.
crow. I don't know if you
Yes,
posted
yes.
that one too. Yeah. I'm just
Yes.
trying to it's funny because there's so much stuff, and I know every single thing I've seen that's like a current event has been from your page.
Well, the news cycle is pretty insane. Like in the summertime, I really noticed it, and in the beginning, I wasn't really planning on doing really a lot of current events. But sometimes you just go in there, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta post that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even we've talked too about obviously in the last couple of years, people whose mental health maybe wasn't the greatest
Yes.
before the pandemic.
Yes.
Even if it was great, every single person has gone through something in the last 3 years that
Totally.
has impacted their mental health. So I know that a lot of people, there's some crazy shit that's been going on. That's an
Totally.
understatement. I know there's
Yes.
always been crazy stuff that's
Yes.
happened, but I know even just locally, the amount of murders,
Yes.
the amount of assaults, the amount of attacks.
Random.
And random stranger
Yes.
assaults lately.
That's scary. That's the one that scares me the most because generally I was born and raised in Vancouver. And, Vancouver was always a place, or Metro Vancouver, Surrey, New West, Burnaby. If you want trouble, if you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's always been that way. But to think that you could just be walking on the sidewalk, and some of the videos I've sent, I don't post everything I get sent. God, I'd be my platform would be taken down. Some of the
Yeah.
stuff is pretty shocking. There was around the summertime, there was all these bear spraying, swarming attacks, teenagers, and people were sending me all of them, and they were brutal. This one kid on the ground, they're all getting kicked in the head. They're all bear spraying them. And that's new, that kind of level of violence for nonsense. And they filmed themselves.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
crazy
Which
to me.
is
Yes.
actually pretty stupid.
My
Yes.
10-year-old
Yes.
actually just filmed a fight at school, which
Oh, no.
the guy got him, film this for me.
Yeah.
The first thing I said, if there's something that's happening like that,
Yeah.
the last thing you want to do, because he wasn't involved in it,
You're guilty
he
by
was-
association.
Exactly. And then I said that to him, you're a good kid, but it's things like that happen where you get lumped in with kids. It's just filming.
Yes,
Don't
yes.
film yourself doing, these days everyone's filming everything,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like
yeah.
we covered. It's
Yeah.
everything is on camera. So whether it's you filming it, the car beside you filming it, the stoplight that's filming it,
Yeah.
there's cameras everywhere. So there's been some things like just random attacks, like that DoorDash driver.
Oh, I know.
That was
Yeah.
just came here, I think. He was a refugee,
Stabbed, yeah.
or hit in the head with something, or, people are being lit on fire, or people are being...
And often on transit also. And it's,
Yeah.
some little lady or some vulnerable person that's all of a sudden just sucker punched right in the face for no
Yeah,
reason.
the level of violence is scary, and there, what you touched on it. There's a mental health component, substance abuse,
Yeah.
and then acting out violently. You have people using hard drugs. They should be in a facility for their mental health, and they're like running amok, literally. It's unfortunate, but
I recently went downtown, and I mean, as in my younger years, I was down there a lot, but I went for an appointment, and driving down East Hastings has always been, it's always been, it's kind of normalized to us because we live here, right? But I was so taken back at what I was seeing, because usually it would be if we go in the night, we're going downtown, we're going to the club, we're going somewhere, everyone kind of comes alive at night.
Sure.
But right now, I was down there at 9:00 in the morning, and it is like a Saturday night.
Wow.
It is
The fire that just happened.
Yeah, all the explosions. It's it's really sad because we touch a lot on trauma, and obviously, the root problem is never the addiction.
No.
The root problem is always the trauma.
Yes.
And the addiction comes from the lack of resources
And
that we are
mechanisms,
coping, and majority of the people that are down there have experienced some sort of horrible trauma.
No, absolutely.
Right? So just trying to make it, obviously
I have a lot of
safe.
followers who live in the downtown east side. They live in Gastown and Yaletown, that surrounding area, and majority of them are terrified.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified.
I can't,
Even walking, I was parked in an underground, and it's like, being vigilant for your own protection. Like, okay, who's in the underground? There's
Yes.
parts of Vancouver that are not, by any means, were never dangerous before.
No.
Are now, you have to really watch
Yeah,
yourself.
no, absolutely. And even myself, I had bizarre situations that I never thought I would ever have in my life. So this was around September, and it stopped now. Every time I take my kids to the park, there was like skinny 100-pound black ninjas at the park with their man bags.
Oh.
Right? And looking really menacing and stuff like that, and coming a little bit too close, and a couple of times even saying stuff to me. So like they're trying to have a confrontation, right? So I'm thinking like, oh my God, like it's hitting close to home.
Am I gonna have to fight this ninja at the park?
Oh, I know.
Right now?
And then it's like a 100-pound kid. Yeah, he has bear spray. I don't want to get bear spray.
No,
but
yeah.
I don't want to put a 100-pound 14-year-old kid in the hospital. But if you bear spray me, that will happen.
I had a house party when I was 14, and my mom came home, and she got bear sprayed by
my
a skinny
God.
14-year-old kid.
Oh,
That's
horrible.
But it's like that was rare. You didn't
Yeah.
hear about that happening a lot, and then I swear it's really picked up because
But them actively looking for a situation,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm pretty measured, and there's a lot crazier people than me. So I'm thinking, but it seemed to have stopped. But you're looking for that kind of trouble, and you're going to go out there with a canister of bear spray. You don't know what you're walking into. It's kind of dangerous on their part too.
Exactly. Well, and they're always quick to draw,
Yes,
they're usually, the funny thing is they actually, most of the time they bear spray themselves also.
Yeah,
So
the back spray.
Exactly. So there's some other cases too, I know that I'm sure you're familiar with them. We always, our first probably 25 episodes, we would kind of do try to update people, but the Trina Hunt case.
Yeah, that case really baffles me. I heard a rumor, maybe you can confirm it. I heard they're going to be on Dateline. I saw on Dateline. I don't know, maybe that was a rumor. I don't know. But that'd be good.
I hope that
would
rumor's
be
true.
excellent.
Yeah.
Because I worked on the Lindsay Buziak case, and I talked to the dad periodically, and that was a real game changer when they got American big time, 30 million views, for each show. That was a game changer, but that case is still unsolved too.
And we would really like to actually, because we're going to dive into an unsolved case, and Lindsay Buziak is probably on the top of my list.
But Trina Hunt, that's a baffling case, and everyone's obviously pointing the finger at the husband, and they arrested him and then let him go.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I have dual American citizenship. The difference in the States and in Canada, you can follow the case, and they do update the public. Like, for example, those Idaho college murders. You don't know everything about it. I know the inside.
Yeah.
I've seen 3D renderings of it. I know their evidence, the DNA on the knife sheet.
Exactly.
You know everything about the case, but then something local, it just goes into a black hole under investigation, maybe publication ban.
Even when there's
Onatera,
even when there's stuff that's like, comes out when you hear something like with the Naomi Onatera case.
another one.
We had a source that was kind of on the inside who was kind of leaking a little bit of stuff to us. And they had like mad evidence right from the beginning. And it took them such a long time to even make an arrest.
Wow.
Our justice system here is so much more slow and cautious compared to the States.
Oh, totally. And I'll give you an example. So when I first started the podcast, I started an Excel spreadsheet of all the unsolved homicides starting from 2009 to about 2020. I got about 550. Most, about 80% of them are gang related. I just stopped losing count of them.
Yeah.
To stop keeping track. It just seems like it's just, and then another rash of shootings since then too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it just unsolved.
Those ones I did.
Unsolved.
I mean, I don't know because I'm not there, but it seems like unless they catch someone fleeing from the scene,
Yeah.
those ones are
Majority of the time
Yeah,
unsolved.
majority of the time.
Yeah, and they burn the vehicle.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's
Their
difficult.
MO.
It's difficult to solve a homicide when it's sometimes too. Like if I interview my friend David on the podcast all the time, the ex-hitman. He says they'll bring outside help. Like they'll bring if they're a crew from Canada. They'll bring someone from the States to do the shooting and things like that.
And
right?
most
so
of the time,
they're in and they're gone.
Exactly, and it's not the person that actually ordered the killing. It's somebody. Because I know a very high-profile case. Actually, grew up with the guy who was killed by the gas station over in Clayton Heights.
Oh wow!
So I grew up with him. He was a menace to me for my
He was
whole
your
life.
bully,
He was,
basically.
yeah.
Wow.
But they caught the people that did that. But I know that those people exactly. It was pretty fast, but they were obviously brought in. You know, they weren't familiar to anybody around here. It was but the person that actually did and ordered that, where's the justice for that?
Yeah.
Like for that person, it's probably
And
never
it was
gonna
the
happen.
middle of the day, broad daylight. They ran
Yeah.
right across the street from Save On Foods to that gas
brazen.
station, shot him, and like
Yeah, just
busy street, man. You're not gonna be able to get back.
Oh, he almost got hit by a car. I don't know if I think you posted that as well. The surveillance video of the shooter running across the street and then running back and almost getting hit by that car.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
yeah, that's the thing. And unless, like you said, unless they're caught in the moment, right, red-handed, usually they're masked up. They're they're going into neighborhoods. They're going into places that people should feel safe.
Yeah.
And people's homes, people's workplaces, the middle of the gas station. There you never know. So.
I'm actually surprised that with all the gang stuff that's happened around here, that we haven't had more innocent bystanders hit.
Yeah, I know it's been a miracle actually.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there was that one actually, right in Langley, Walnut Grove, the boy, young boy who was killed, and there was a bystander that was hit.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah,
one.
because I mean, for me, I'm sure you as well. When you know something like that, and you know all these unsolved cases, you go and you periodically check. Okay, I'm going to type in this person's name and just see: has there been any movement?
Updates, yeah.
Is there any updates? And for the most part, when it comes to those kinds of cases, there's not.
No, there's not.
So-
like that one stands out to me, the one in Whistler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And, I love it when people send me stuff, but in this case, it's like I check my DM and I'm like, oh my God, I got 20 people sending me the headshot of the gangster on the ground bleeding. So I didn't post it. I'm just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, seeing it, I felt traumatized. But imagine that you're booking yourself in for a nice vacation at Whistler, and then someone shot.
Yeah.
So it's affected all of Metro Vancouver, and it's the random nature of it is something new, and it can happen anytime, daylight, nighttime.
Exactly.
So there's a definite feeling of the city not feeling safe because taking all these factors we're talking about, the randomness, the teen violence, the gang stuff. Drugs, break-ins, and
Murders.
Yeah, murders. Oh, wow.
Yep.
So it's frustrating. I talk with a lot of families that are, victims of their sons or daughters, their relatives or loved ones. They tend to have frustration with the system.
Of course, yeah.
How slow it moves. Like you said, we gave them this evidence, we gave them that evidence. They don't tend to, no, we don't need that. Like the one in Toronto I worked on with the family, there's so much about that case that I felt it needed to be taken seriously. Like this woman, she falls from a high rise. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a guy shouting her name, right? That means she wasn't alone. Oh, we don't need to investigate. Or cell phone, so on. Oh, well.
Well, Chelsea Poorman.
Yes.
Yes. How can somebody be? It's just different cases where there's no way that these cases have been. They're just.
Her head's missing still.
And like she's not. It's not suspicious. I that to me is just like that's baffling.
Well, that was, in my opinion, a misstep. I guess they were trying to calm the public, but instead they got the public pretty worked up for for obvious reasons. That case is, baffling. A young girl goes missing. She was 22. Yeah,
From
goes
a busy,
missing.
from Granville Street.
Granville Street.
Yeah.
Found in a mansion. Her head missing. Her skeleton was made, and people were working on that house. That house was under renovation, and so her skeletal remains were on the patio. And from my understanding, from the contractors that were working on the house for the last year, they said they walked by that patio every day. So he said, from my understanding, that her remains were like on a blanket on the patio, kind of rolled up in a blanket, and they would have saw that, a skeleton sticking out of a blanket on the house you're working on.
And she didn't wrap herself in a blanket,
and her head missing.
Exactly.
And another thing is that after she was found, the police left all of her belongings there and their gloves everywhere, and like that's so disrespectful. No matter what, like. This is evidence. You've just left it there. This just says, I don't give a shit when you've left all of the stuff here.
Well, and it's familiar because if you know anything about anything, the Picton case, there was people saying, my family member is missing. This is not like her. Oh, well, she's a drug addict. She's Indigenous.
She's a prostitute.
She's a prostitute.
Sex worker.
And, probably, it was just dismissed. It was so dismissive, which you would think because of their history that they would really do their due diligence, especially the VPD, because they are really under a spotlight, especially now. It's 2023. Everyone's filming everything. Everyone's everywhere. And the fact that, they are probably going to come out in a couple years and say, "Oh, there was a serial killer."
Yes.
That's what I think.
I mean, right now, the way that it stands right now, with all of the missing, murdered Indigenous women and two-spirited people that are happening around, again, it's like a deja vu almost. Like it's all coming back.
No, totally. And I feel there's a couple things going on. There's it's sort of things that overlap each other. There's people that are kind of like opportunists, right? Maybe they find themselves alone with a woman. They're both doing drugs. Maybe she overdoses, and he takes advantage of that situation. So he's not an active looking predator, just a predator that looks for opportunities. Where what I think is more scarier is more like almost like a dark tourism. Like, for example, the Highway of Tears.
Yeah.
The amount of murders that have happened from the 60s to present day, it's not one person, right? And so I feel that sometimes these are kind of almost destinations for creeps, predators to apply their thing.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe they might have a network where they talk to, some of them might work with people, some might more solo. Yeah. But it becomes a known place, like anywhere. Like, hey, if you want to get away with abduction and killing people, go to the Highway Tears, go up there.
We've covered one person that was a predator up there, Cody Lejabokov.
Yes.
So we've covered that one.
Yeah,
Monster. And we would like to cover all of them, but there has been so many, and a lot of them are unsolved. There's a couple faces that they have put to a couple of the victims, but there's not, there's...
Well, every time you go to start the research, and, I really need to sit down and delve into it, because every time I start the research, it's hard to find a starting point, and it's hard to pinpoint. They do have, I think, 6 people that have been prosecuted or linked to different crimes there.
Yeah.
However, it's so vast, and there are so many. Once you start unraveling it, there's so many families of missing and murdered Indigenous women that I think I want to pay justice to each and every person that I'm talking about, and their murders and the things that, the lives that they led before, and, all of the good things about them. And then I start delving into it, and it's like, and then there's another this person, and there's another this person. And the fact that has gone on for such a long time, there are actual, I don't know if you guys have driven up there, but there's signs all along the billboards.
Which is great, and I'm sure that wasn't even paid for by the police. I'm sure it's been paid for by the women, the women's families, right? Because the police are not doing their jobs of keeping these women safe and these people safe. And I obviously don't like to, we don't like to say that the police aren't doing anything, but really what it seems like is it's not. There's not a lot of movement.
See, I think it comes in the way I look at it is this, is like the way that our police are structured. Canada almost needs like an FBI type of bureau that just focuses only on like major crimes, murder, abduction, and I know the RCMP do that, but it's almost like they need a separate bureau that just focus on these forensic cold cases, these cases that, you know, they span a long time, and they probably do take a lot of resources from the police because of the amount of time and like I remember like they did the EPANA, right? It was like $35 million.
Yeah.
But what was the outcome?
And then also in EPANA, they had so many restrictions on who basically qualified to be in EPANA. Like they had so many different qualifications that it barely even grazed, like I think it was 14 people or something that qualified with that was with the victims.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You see them spend a lot of money on these cases. Like even when Trudeau came into power, the Truth and Reconciliation. Yes. And yeah, it's nice words. It is, right? And they spend money on it, and they cut ribbons and things like that. But more women are going missing. Yeah. More women are missing. You know, the Winnipeg case, which you guys want to talk about too. Yep. Horrendous. Again, this guy was a straight out serial killer monster out in the open. Yep. Bring it back to the downtown Eastside, though, like we're talking about these missing Indigenous women, and there was the Noello soup one.
Yep.
That one is, that's a case where I'll read it, I'll do the research, and I'll just sit there just like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I can't believe what I read.
And the fact, because we have also talked about that, just like I said, we do a lot of like current events, and that when I read that and I started to see, because you know you see the missing on your page, you see her missing poster, and I'm, you know, that's sad, and
14
she's
years
so
old.
young, and you know, and then you see, you know, months later that months that she had been deceased in this SRO. With another person, also deceased, not found. It's like it's the due diligence of you have to get someone to go in there, and obviously the predator that I'm sure, I don't know if obviously there's a lot of gray area, but
it's all kind of buried. Like when stuff comes out, I find
what's creepy about that one, her body was found. She was there for dead on the couch for a month. In the apartment of a known predator who, you know, I've got sources who also told me privately he attacked their family members too. And the Canada Border Protection Service wanted to deport him because of the pandemic. Vietnam wouldn't accept him. And they basically had no choice but release him, but with no public warning. And this guy was known for drugging women, sexually assaulting them. And obviously something happened where young girl ended up dead on his couch, and they didn't find her for a month.
Yeah.
And there was another body there too.
And there was a smell the whole time.
And then he died, exactly.
Right? And so, like,
how did he die?
Well, probably overdose. Yeah. I mean, the drugs are very unsafe downtown or all over. That, you know, you hear of people recreationally using drugs very seldomly, and they pass away because the drug supply. Our borders have been closed for they were closed for 2 years. Nothing is coming in. So the stuff that the people are doing has been stomped on and, you know, added this, that, and
it's stomped on by the time it even comes to the first people at this point.
And a lot of times it was the mail too.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of times I was from one source, they order like precursor chemicals and stuff off the dark web. And they just basically are making these poisonous concoctions and stuff they can order over the internet. Exactly. It's all about making money. It's the safe supply thing is it's an interesting topic because on one side you have super highly lethal drugs that are beyond lethal, like even someone doing it once or getting a pill that's counterfeit that they think they're taking a Tylenol 3 or Xanax, but in reality they're taking a counterfeit fentanyl pill. And so a lot of people have died from these tainted drugs. And then you have this source where it's like, okay, but how do you manage them off the drugs, right? So are we just perpetually going to keep them on drugs? How's that going to work for them integrating with society? I don't see that happening. So there's a lot of like noise on both sides of the argument. Some people just are not for it at all. Some people think that, you know, they should facilitate them with clean drugs as a way of kind of triaging so they can get over the overdose curve.
So they cannot die before they get a chance to get over the...
Well, that was like the safe injection sites too. I know a lot of people you don't want to find needles at the park, but then on the other side of that, people are having problems with these safe injection sites. But I mean, really, until they get to the root cause of all these problems, which it's so overwhelming down there right now. Trauma, surprise, surprise.
Fires burning all around you.
Exactly. Fires and explosions. Was that explosion that happened the other day
all
that
those
shut down
propane
town?
tanks.
Yeah. And
that other one too. That was a strange one. That was like a gas leak. I don't know. Vancouver is like falling apart. All these random fires.
It is fires.
I feel like the world is just getting more and more expensive and
burning.
Well, apparently the aliens are supposed to come tomorrow.
Oh, the mothership. I've been joking about that too.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry, the mothership's going to save us.
Yeah, they're supposed to come and take us out tomorrow anyway. So what's that? Have you heard about that? It's a guy on TikTok is a time traveler, and he said tomorrow, March 23rd.
Oh.
Or maybe is it March 23rd today?
No, it's the 22nd.
Okay, good. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm just wondering if I should go to work then, or should I just stay home and do stuff I like to do?
We're supposed to all get wiped out. I think there's about 9,000 of us that will make it out. That's what he said. So, but I wouldn't even be fucking surprised if a spaceship came down right now.
Either.
Of course, a spaceship. Cool.
There it is again, that spaceship.
That's just it. I mean, we're pretty... I mean, I have some beliefs in that, and some people think I'm crazy, but we're pretty pompous and arrogant if we think we're the only ones that ever existed.
Well, the best was mid-pandemic. Everyone's super, super, super wrapped up with Corona and all this stuff, and then they're like, by the way, aliens are real. We found spaceships, and they're like, what? Yeah. Nobody. I'm like, did you guys hear that they actually announced that they have spacecrafts that are not from this? And people are like, what? Didn't you see the numbers today? And you're like, oh fuck, never mind. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, there was that famous the Nivets, the fighter pilot, the F-18 fighter pilot, where he gets intercepted, and the videos on it, and he's very articulate. I listen to interviews, he breaks it down. The thing that had the ability to jam his radar, and he said that they couldn't see them until they upgraded their new radar sonar system, and all of a sudden they appeared on the.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah,
but I don't care even if they kill us. Like if I could see something cool first.
Again, it's just like. And then no one really reacts to it. Like 10 years ago, aliens, oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I literally was talking to my girlfriend, and she was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, they announced that they have spacecrafts that are not, but of course, if we are here, we don't know. We've went to the moon, and I think we went to Mars one time.
Yes, we sent a rover to Mars.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, there's something else out there, so we'll find out tomorrow if this episode doesn't air.
I think we've been so traumatized as collective society with the pandemic, wars, and now China and Russia. So I think we've become more number, and I think that's also creating more underlying mental illness.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
Society itself is so complex, and there's a book that's really good. It's called The Tribe. I talked a little bit on my podcast, and it talks about when back in the colonial wars, when Europeans would actually get captured by Indigenous tribes, a lot of them they wouldn't want to go back. Because they actually felt like, okay, we're all part of a community, we all hunt, we share everything together, and they actually had more leisure time. They would generally spend about 12 hours a week hunting, gathering, and the rest of the week was more leisure time. So they felt they had a better life, and during that time, none of the natives that were captured ever wanted to stay.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah. So,
and isn't it ironic that that's what ended up happening? It should have gone the other way. That would have been a more beautiful outcome.
Totally. Yeah. But I think as time moved on, we're closer together. Our populations are more dense. We have to integrate with different people, different cultures, perspectives. So we're bombarded with a lot of information. Society's a lot more complex, expensive. You have kids, that's complex, and just navigating daily life can be a challenge. So for someone who's traumatized, been in a very abusive relationship, poor parenting, or drugs and alcohol, everything will compound very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get in over your head. Now you can't pay your rent, and oh my God, now I'm on the street.
Exactly.
And
you can slide fast.
And now add to the fact that everything has gotten so expensive. That is mind-blowing.
Oh, the rents are insane.
It's crazy.
$700 to share a room with some dude.
And it's not even a full size. It's not even a cot. It's like a mattress.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
That's really gross.
There's a lot of that stuff going on. And even the gas prices, the gas prices.
Groceries.
And the groceries is a whole other thing. I had maybe 6 things in my cart today and I spent $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, definitely there's like a creeping up factor.
Yeah.
So you could see that now it's causing shoplifting. You'll start seeing stores close down because they're getting shoplifted so much. And they're shutting down some Walmarts in some areas because people come in with big carts. And if I work there, I'm not going to get into a huge fist fight with someone over groceries.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what it's come down to. Like some people
Yeah.
can't even afford, a lot of people can't afford the necessities now.
No.
I caught a young girl, I live in a coach house because that's all I can afford for $1,500 a month. And there was a young girl robbing the garage underneath my house when I came outside at 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
To walk
And
her big dog.
I have a big German Shepherd.
Oh, good for you.
And so I just looked at her and I guess I'm a little numb because I just said to her, what are you doing? She goes, if I'm honest, I'm stealing stuff. And I go, well, what are you stealing? And I went through all the stuff she was stealing. And I'm like, where did you get this cider? And she says, I got it from the neighbor's garage. And I'm like, well, just keep it because you
Put that
whatever.
jacket back and
but
keep
instead
the
of,
cider.
I didn't even bother calling the police. She came from a trauma.
Right.
I took her for a walk and gave her a lecture
Well, good
because
for you.
it's, and someone said to me, well, why didn't you invite her to live with you? Like they're making fun of me for being so compassionate. But I'm like, this was a 17-year-old girl who's living in a trap house with 5 guys. And
in Clayton Heights.
Oh my God.
and so I was just trying to get through to her on a different level that maybe would speak to her.
Yeah, show some empathy.
Yeah. And
And that's
just
what
I
we
was
need more
actually,
of
and I
these
was also
days.
very, very blunt with her. And I told her,
tough love,
tough love. And I'm sure she was just like, what the fuck is this lady? She was high as a kite. And I take her for a walk,
Right.
with my German Shepherd and don't move, he'll bite you. But that's the thing. Like this kind of thing is just becoming so rampant now because we
Yeah.
can't afford all of it.
But even to segue, that girl, there's so many people like her right now that are just, that part of society is very fragile. They have the trauma. We all have trauma. But the fact that people are going and they're predatory, like they're choosing these people like that, like Jeremy Skibicki, which I hate even to bring attention to his name, but
horrible,
but a lot of people, again, if you don't keep up with that, did anybody see that on the news? Did anybody see, except for the hashtag search the landfill, which for people who are not aware, he is someone who is now caught to be, Mark kind of touched on it earlier, a serial killer who is targeting Indigenous women.
Yeah, he's a straight up serial killer.
Oh, yeah.
And he was going to the shelters to meet people. And he was doing that for years and years.
Yeah.
And if that is not strategically picking your victims, I don't know what is.
Well, the Wish that do charity and advocacy work for women on the downtown east side, they came out with a statement. This was around, I'd say, just at the end of summer, and they said it's the worst that they ever seen. 'Cause they work with a lot of sex workers, the worst they've ever seen for predators, drug facilitated rape. So monsters are going down there and target them, absolutely. And this is what I'm saying too. I do believe the environment that we have does attract these types of scumbags because they can get away with it, and there's just too many vulnerable people that, and predators. That's like blood in the water for them.
Yeah,
It's like shopping. You can just go
Exactly.
down
Oh,
and
totally.
yeah, it's horrible.
Like remember the old case? I don't know if you the boozing barber.
Yes. Actually, one of my coworkers' moms was killed by him.
Oh no, that's horrible.
Yeah,
but he's a classic case. But instead of booze, they use coke or fentanyl or something else, right? They use something to lure them. In his case, it was alcohol.
And he was one of the most prolific serial killers
he was.
ever.
But remember how long he went without being caught? Like,
Yes.
remember it was, this person died of
Alcohol
or, this person had an overdose.
And
or
a lot of people don't even know about it.
No,
That's
that's
the
the thing.
thing here. It's like
Exactly.
everything.
The fact that, you could say probably any killer name and we'll be like, we know that. We know every specific. And
he had a long reign too. Probably started in the '60s all the way to 2000.
Yeah, late 90s, right?
He moved
Or
to Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. He was still targeting women there.
Well, and if you look, even, I mean, I think they're a little better at it now, but I mean, we touched on the Clifford Olson case, and just the fact, like, you know, he could kill someone in Surrey and then go kill someone in Burnaby and then kill someone in Coquitlam, and the police were not putting them together.
No.
Obviously, that was in the 80s, but I mean, the fact that this person, the boozing barber, was going province to province. So if you think you're going to get away with it from city to city, imagine province to province.
Yes.
You know, by the time the heat kind of comes down on you, you're in Alberta or you're somewhere else,
For
right?
sure. Yeah, back to Clifford Olson though. A lot of people don't know. I didn't actually know this about Clifford Olson until I did the research on it. But he abused people across Canada, all the way to Newfoundland.
Yep.
Like even as far as Newfoundland, all the way to probably Vancouver Island. So he was so prolific. Yeah, he was a real monster. But I feel
like when that is something, when you are a prolific offender, you can't not offend.
No,
so the
he's
fact
like a shark.
that
Like,
so the fact that they are released because, let's say, good behavior, or you know, they're released. I was reading something that during the pandemic, they were, because of the outbreaks in the jail of COVID, they were going to release Gary Ridgway.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh, he's one of the worst serial killers in the United States.
So 72 murders is what he's claimed, but I'm sure there's more.
The other research I do, I research a lot on the dark psychology, and it's going for what you're saying, is that they can't stop. And I'm not so, in my podcast, I'm not really so interested in, you know, the blood, the guts, the gore situation, but I am interested in the kind of the mindset of the serial killer, the predator.
And that's like us,
And the more you research them, it's just like it's like the behavior is so ingrained. It's just like they can't stop. But the other thing is that they're usually, especially if they're on the narcissistic scale, if they're more on the sociopathic scale, like Jeffrey Dahmer, they're not really charismatic and charming. But like Ted Bundy or Paul Bernardo, on the other hand, they can be incredibly charming individuals. They know how to blend in. They're good talkers, and they also have higher than average intelligence to manipulate the system. Clifford Olson was the same way. He was a police informant, so he'd give them about B&Es and break and entry and what this guy's doing, and he actually helped them catch a child murderer of a 9-year-old, and he was one of the people that played an informant, and his testimony got that guy arrested longer. He was in jail. It was a jail informant. But then because of that, he got released. Yeah. Right. So they know how to play the system.
And the funny thing about, well, not funny, but the thing about that too was then he took what that guy had told him and he started leaving bodies in the same spot.
Wow.
Up by Weaver Lake.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he took a lot from that, actually.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
That's so gross.
Yeah, they're all disgusting.
Yeah, they are. They're monsters. They really are.
And that's it, right? I mean, I think because our brains, they don't work like that even if we wanted them to.
For sure.
You know?
And everything's on a spectrum. Like there are people that are narcissistic or even psychopathic, and they're not killers, but they join the army or become like a special forces, or they maybe join a biker club, right? But then there's people that are like so like on the spectrum that they can't stop.
Yeah.
Like, you know, especially with narcissists. There's not all narcissists are capable of being what Paul Bernardo have, but they can be highly irritating. You know what I mean? So it all comes in spectrums, but when you deal with these really extreme spectrums like the Paul Bernardo and Clifford Olson, things like that, once they're identified as a dangerous monster, they have to be taken out because they will not stop killing.
Exactly.
And they usually get more grandiose and more savage.
Ted Bundy is like prime example.
Well, he jumped out of a window with, in custody from the library and escaped and was gone. But I have a question for you, Marc.
Sure.
Do you believe in nature or nurture?
Meaning as far as what
creates?
I think it's a combination of two. I think there's genetic proponents, obviously, and I think environment has a huge role in it. You get kids in the same environment. Like I'll give you an example. Like I grew up with the family of Terry Driver, Abbotsford, and I went to school with one of the kids. He was a cool kid. He was never in trouble. Same environment. Probably still a cool guy. That brother was the only one that did all that stuff. So same environment, but
and he was disturbed
always,
right from the
exactly.
beginning.
I remember as a kid, he was a little bit off. I remember my older brother, they didn't like him. It was kind of like an East fan, the worst thing to be called is goof. He
A
was
goof,
referred to
yeah.
as goof. Like
Yeah.
means like
Yeah.
untouchable,
Yeah.
persona non grata, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember he used to always like buy like old police cars, like unmarked
Yep.
police
That's
cars.
what we always talk about.
Yeah, and
Yep.
he'd drive around. I remember once we were kids and we had a 6-pack of beer. He tried to take and he's like flaking a badge at us, but we knew who he was, so we just told him to F off. But he was always odd. I remember we had the police scanners all the time.
But that's a thing
Yeah.
too, because if you look at a lot of the big name serial killers, those people, a lot of them have been in the army, like
Yes.
you kind of touched on, and they all had some kind of like Brian Koberger, the guy right now. They wanted to be part of the police force.
Right, yeah.
They want to be in. Ed Kemper, remember?
Have a
He
s-
was too tall to be in with that, but it's
And they all have, like the narcissistic superiority
Yeah.
air about them.
Yes,
many.
they're attracted to powerful positions or
Yeah.
positions that they can have authority, absolutely. And
Yeah.
they will abuse that totally.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So when you are talking to people's families, I haven't talked to the family of any of the victims yet. Is it easy to talk to them about what they're going through at the time? I know that they're asking for you to bring awareness to their loved one's case, but how do you feel when you're talking to someone that's actually has a loved one that has been victimized?
Well, it's a tightrope, right? Because there's a lot of emotions, and I think what helps in my case is that my wife passed away from kind of a tragic way too. So I can bring in that empathy. I understand sudden loss, tragedy, and so I bring that to the table. That like understanding, I truly can understand what they're going through because someone's with you one minute and they're not there the next day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would never understand what it's like for your family to be taken out in such a monstrous or violent way. And so I try to provide as much emphasis as possible. First, my goal is just really try to listen to them and really what they want. Sometimes they just want someone to listen to. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes a while for them to, to be more cooperative or to want to talk about their kids because they get bombarded and they go through different emotions and spectrums, right? So what I do is I leave the door open. I never put pressure on them to talk. And if I'm going to do a podcast about their loved ones, I usually will ask for their blessing. And if they do get that, then we proceed gently.
Yeah.
What's important to you? What do you want to know? What would you like the outcome to be of this?
That's amazing.
And honestly, applaud to you. Applaud.
It's hard though because sometimes you're also like in one case, one mother, she had a pretty bad nervous breakdown. I was on the phone for 2 hours, so it's a lot to absorb, and my heart goes out to you. But at the same time, this is what you're dealing with because in her case, the medical examiner was really fishy. The police was very inconsistent. It was like a whole list of things, and there was legal stuff. So, I'm grateful to be in their lives when they're going through these tragedies.
Yeah.
But my heart goes out for them because it's hard because a lot of times they don't get the closure they want.
Yeah, I know there's a case from Mom's hometown, and she's been very kind of. You wanted to reach out to the family and kind of ask, but I know that mother is very...
She never came out to the public. I'm not even going to mention the name, but she never actually even spoke of her daughter for over 20 years.
Oh my God.
And the young man that murdered her daughter was only 14, and he was my brother's bully. So it was on Vancouver Island. And it's something like that where I feel like that mother needs so much care. The fact that she couldn't even speak her daughter's name for that many years.
Yeah.
And now I've seen her on some of the groups coming out to kind of like slowly talk about things. And that's been her healing journey is that long of a time. I can't even imagine. I can't even bring myself there.
No, and this is something that happened when you were, 15 or something like that. So just imagine it's affected you, and if she can't even bring to talk about it. But I hope that, people like that find healing in carrying on. That's why we do this podcast, is carrying on the person's memory and who they were, because I feel like if you are a victim of murder, your whole life is almost forgotten. And you're only remembered for your final moments or the way you were taken.
Exactly.
Which, we like to really tell the story of that person before they were a victim of murder and bring, something to their memory.
honor their memory.
Exactly.
Alrighty, well, this has been amazing.
Yes,
I've
it's
been
been
so
so
happy.
nice.
Thank you
good.
so much
I'm
for
happy to be
joining
here,
us today.
Yes. Well, Marc, I'll let you kind of tell everybody where they can find you.
Easiest way to find
Not
me
your house
is,
or
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I already been doxed. Easiest way to find me is Instagram, Vancouver True Crime. That's probably my main platform.
Yep.
So that's probably the easiest way.
And you guys will not be you guys will be way up to date with
Yeah,
everything.
totally, yeah.
And you will not regret following him. He has all the information. You do such a great job. And
you.
thank you again for coming on today and having this chat with us.
And being our very first guest.
Yes,
Oh,
you've been
happy to
our
be
very
here.
first guest.
Amazing.
We would love to have you back.
Yeah, you can have me anytime you like.
Yeah, well,
Excellent.
Well, everybody, this has been Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother and Marc today. Have a
See you
good one,
later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.